Matrix is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of Shorts with Liz Clark.
Well, hello. Today on Shorts with Liz Clark, I am joined with Jack Thomas, the co-founder of FitGuide, the only global independent rating system for premium fitness clubs. Jack's also the founder of the award-winning gym Base in Bangkok, one of my favorite places on the planet, and host of Fitness Business Asia podcast. We're diving into today who's setting the global standards on fitness and why hospitality is now not negotiable and what sets off top-tier fitness experiences apart in a rapidly evolving industry. So thank you so much for joining us today, Jack.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, Liz.
So let's just jump right in. So we're going to talk about the FitGuide. And for those that don't follow it, it's really the only global independent rating system for premium fitness clubs. And talk to us a little bit about what inspired you to create it. And then what gap were you aiming to fill within the industry that wasn't there that caused you to create it?
Yeah, well, first up, thank you for having me, Liz. It's a pleasure to be here and always good to talk about everything that's going on in the fitness industry. I see the great work that you're doing with HFA globally. I'm good friends with Sean Tan here, so I keep in close contact with him and what he's doing for the industry here. And it's always a pleasure to do my little bit, I guess, to help with the standards of the fitness industry. And that's really what the FitGuide is all about. It started with a chance conversation at the end of 2022 with a good friend of mine, Matt Lavender, who used to live in Bangkok. That's how I know him. And he used to be a hotel inspector, which sounded like the very best job in the world. He used to go to 5-star hotels all around the world and independently, anonymously evaluate them. And I was always very jealous because it just sounded like such a fantastic job.
Okay,
but
but he wasn't rating low hotels. He was only rating 5 stars, right? I mean,
well, he would give them the 5-star. He would give them the 5-star or the 4-star, but they were all very nice. Even the ones that didn't quite get the top rating would still be very good. We're talking your Six Senses, your St. Regis's, Four Seasons, these kind of places. So I was very, very jealous at the time and hoped one day I could have a job like that. And then he went back to the UK in around about 2016 and started working for Forbes Travel Guide. Now, Forbes Travel Guide are the leading hospitality evaluations organization. They started in 1965, and they actually invented the whole 4-star, 5-star review system. And so he basically worked for the biggest organization that does that globally, the only global independent standard of excellence, although you do get some local ones within each individual country. They are the ones that globally decide who's 4-star and 5-star. So 2022, he came to Bangkok. We were having a bottle of wine in a meal, and I was telling him about the work I do in the fitness industry, some of the media stuff I do through Fitness Business Asia. He was talking about the work he does in hospitality. At the time, he was with Forbes. And we just sort of, while we were talking, had this light bulb moment that the fitness industry really needed something like this. Forbes Travel Guide had been around since 1965. Michelin Guide, of course, has been around for over 100 years, recognizing the world's best restaurants. And having traveled a lot and been to a lot of gyms around the world, I realized that we don't always live up to our promise of 5-star service, and we don't always live up to our price tag. My particular place in the fitness industry is boutique fitness. So when you go and do a class in New York, you're paying $40, $45, $50. I think you should get 5-star service. And I knew we didn't always get that. So we kind of had this joke that, okay, let's do something and go 50-50. But the next day I was like, with a little bit of a hangover, we should actually do this. I think this is a fantastic idea and it could really help to build up the industry. And what excited me most about it is bringing in Matt's expertise in hospitality. So the things that he does with the very best restaurants and the very best hotels and bringing that into the fitness industry. And over the years, I've heard many people say we should be inspired by the best hotels and the best restaurants. And I just thought this was a great opportunity to actually do that and to bring in a global standard of excellence. So when you ask what's the gap we're filling in the industry, I think it is that gap. There wasn't really a set standardized global standard of excellence like hotels have had, spas, restaurants, even hospitals and golf courses have had this for decades. We wanted to bring that to the fitness industry. So that was the gap. And, we've been working on this hard for the last 2.5 years, kind of getting this message out there.
Okay. So Jack, in a world where fitness options are really everywhere, and again, with your background in boutique, what do you see truly that sets the bar for a premium experience? And what makes these guys stand out?
So we have a unique insight into the boutique fitness space. We have now visited 400 clubs. Each club we take through a 250 evaluation standard process, and that goes really through the whole member journey. And it's really given us this unique insight into what's happening in boutique fitness. And it's also helped us to compare sort of region to region, modality to modality. I've already mentioned we go into the boutique space. We go to cycling, yoga, bar, Pilates, and strength and conditioning classes. Those are our 5 modalities. So it's given us this interesting insight, and we've seen, honestly, a bit of a mixed bag globally. Some brands are doing a fantastic job. Some brands really need to improve. And every time we go to a club, we don't charge them for it. We just go in and try and find the best boutiques in each city. Once we visit, we share the full report with them. So even the clubs that don't score high enough to be included, we still share the report. So those are the ones that need to get better, and we won't name those. Let's go through the ones who are doing a fantastic job. So in the US especially, Orange Theory really deliver consistent, fantastic experiences from start to finish. I was there at HFA when you were speaking to Chuck as well, and talking about I think it was the 4 Ps of how he sort of built that company. Yeah. It's no accident when these companies deliver these fantastic, consistent experiences, especially at scale like Orange Theory, in the thousands of locations now. And what's interesting about Orange Theory is you can really see, and Matt talks about this with his hospitality background, just how well trained they are. There's obviously a very specific process that they go through. They're obviously trained very well. I've done a few Orange Theory classes in the US, and I joined one of our evaluators when they were doing one of their evaluations, and they tell you to get there half an hour early. They go through all the little questions to get to know you better, know if you have any injuries, what your goals are for the training, getting to know you personally a little bit. Then they introduce you to the next person in the experience. So that might be, I think there was another person before the coach. Then they introduce you to the coach who goes through the workout. And they really do this very, very consistently, especially in the US. We have gone to other Orange Series around the world, and the US just stands out as being especially good. Another brand that's doing a great job is Solid Core. So I think they're our leading Pilates brand for consistency. And again, I think it's no mistake that they're a multi-$100 million company, right? And you can really see that. They have always scored 80% plus, and that's really what we want the fitness industry to be getting every time we visit, at least 80% of our 250 standards. That wins our award of excellence, and every single Solid Core visit has got at least that, with some getting 5 stars, over 90%. What's interesting about Solid Core as well is it's a fairly low staff model. Orange Theory have a lot of staff, Solid Core don't, but they're still able to deliver consistently strong experiences. F45, you probably visited more F45s than any other location, just because or any other brand, sorry, because they have such a presence globally in every single market. And they just consistently score very well. I'm not sure if a few have got 5 stars, but they just consistently get at least 80%. They're really doing these things consistently well across their network. Physique 57, you of course have had Jennifer Manavi on the show recently. I saw that episode. Always a great conversation with Jennifer, and she joined us at HFA on stage as well. And what was really interesting about that, and we talked about this at HFA when we did our presentation, is she was one of the first people that we reached out to in 2023 when we launched New York. And Physique 57 actually have a club in Bangkok. So I think I'd met Jennifer very briefly when she was visiting here. But once I got to know her a little bit better and she told me more about what they do at Physique 57, we realized, again, these things are no accident. She really trains her staff up incredibly well. She revisits these things often. She talks a lot about the values they have of hospitality, specifically about hospitality, to bring that into the experience. And it was really the first time I realized that, wow, the brands that get this right, there's a lot of purpose behind this. And Jennifer was a great example. There's other clubs that we haven't visited as many locations that have scored very well. Metabolic's an example of one that's done extremely well. And Brandon's also been on the show as well. And he's buys in a lot to our message of hospitality. He again delivered a great talk at HFA. So yeah, just a few brands there that we've been to that are really doing a fantastic job.
Well, you mentioned many of my favorite brands, but I have to give a shout out to both Orange Theory and Solid Core, who are on my board and
Awesome.
that I work with daily. And I'd be curious, Jack, do you think that the franchise model impacts this? Because some, right, between franchising versus independent, do you think that is an impact on the standards?
It's a great question. It's an interesting one because I've reflected on it quite a lot. Some franchise brands obviously have a very strong playbook. They really train their franchisees up well. They have accountability. So perhaps they have some kind of mystery shopper that goes in to check that things are being done correctly. And the ones that I've mentioned, the franchise brands such as Orange Theory and F45, definitely do it well. Again, I don't want to call anyone out, so I don't want to name the brands that aren't doing that. But what we have seen, and I always find this interesting, is when you have franchise brands, when you get a different experience every time. And that could be a different experience just in terms of how good it is, or it could even be different things are being done each time. And I think for a franchisee, that's kind of what you buy, right? You buy into that whole system, and you should get trained on it properly, and they should make sure that you're delivering that consistently. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag globally, but I would say generally speaking, the franchises do a better job. I mean, there's a few bar brands, Pure Bar, Bar 3, who also regularly do a very good job as well and create very strong experiences. So again, they're obviously doing a good job in supporting their franchisees properly.
Yep, great. Okay, so how would you define fitness hospitality, and why would we say that now it's non-negotiable for top tier clubs and studios? It's so competitive today, and so talk about what the fitness hospitality sort of definition means to you.
Yeah, so I think if you look at, say, the term fitness hospitality, I would say you can just call it hospitality, right? But it just happens to be in the fitness industry this time. And I think, again, I've learned a lot from Matt and his background and the way that he trains and coaches the world's leading hotels and restaurants, and also Jennifer, who has a deep interest in this and passion for this. And one of the angles I really like is that you make people feel at home, and you really welcome them as if you're welcoming them into your home. So if someone comes to your house for dinner, Liz, I'm sure you would show them around, maybe show them where they put their shoes, give them a little tour of the space. Of course, let them know where the bathroom is. If you're cooking them dinner, you'll say the dinner will be ready in about an hour. Make yourself comfortable. And it's really important to you that they have a fantastic time when they come to your house for dinner. If you can get everyone in your business to think about it in this way, as if they're welcoming new members especially, but all members, of course, into their home, making them feel special, making them feel looked after, then honestly, you're already halfway there, or most of the way there, I would say. So you need to get people that kind of get that understand that want to do that, and then try and teach them this philosophy or this value of making them feel at home. It really goes beyond customer service. And again, Jennifer did a great job at HFA differentiating between these two. Customer service is kind of making sure you get the fundamentals right. You do the things that need to be done. So you do give them an orientation. You do show them where things are. Hospitality goes deeper. It's more about human connection. So it's smiling, it's making eye contact. It's little things like showing some genuine interest. And Matthew talks a lot about this as well. Just finding out a little bit something about them that's not necessarily fitness related. Do they work in the area? Do they live in the area? I went to a class a few weeks ago, and on my bag, I had a Hyrox badge. And one of the staff there was, "Oh, you have a Hyrox badge. Have you done Hyrox before?" And we had this whole conversation around that. So that was a great example of just showing a bit of genuine interest. And it made me feel so, yeah, warm. It made me feel good about being there, made me much more likely to return as well. So I was having a great time. And you could see that they enjoyed doing that as well. So any little opportunity you have to sort of find out something about them, take that opportunity. And again, the brands I mentioned do a great job of that. And yeah, not as many clubs that should be doing this in the fitness industry are doing that. Anyone can get our stats and our data from our year one report. We'll be releasing our year two report at the end of this year. You can see the percentages of each of our standards that the fitness industry has hit, and not enough clubs are doing this. So this is a differentiator. You asked how can this makes top tier clubs stand out. Not many clubs are doing this, even using names. In New York, it was 34% of clubs that use names during the check-in. Now we have our Hapanas, our Mind Bodies, our Glow Foxes. We have their name there. Just use it. Smile, make eye contact, use the name, and you're already going to be in the top 60% in New York. So it is getting crowded, as you said. It is getting perhaps saturated in some markets. This is a great way, honestly, a fairly, I don't want to say easy, but simple way to stand out and really rise into that top 5 or 10%.
Okay, so is it possible for the model of clubs that aren't heavily staffed, that don't have that personal connection? Is it possible for them to make it onto your radar? Like brands like Pure, brands like Anytime. That it's a very low staff model, or is that an important piece of the hospitality? I would expect that it is.
Yeah, good question. So at the moment, we don't go into big box clubs, but we are building out an evaluation for big box clubs. That will be a little bit more shifted towards what's within the clubs, the equipment they have, opening hours, how clean it is. It'll be less towards the human connection. But I think in any club, that is still an important element. There's always at least a couple of people around. Even if it's cleaners, they play an important part as well in the hospitality experience. So at the moment, we don't go into big box. We only go into boutiques. So we are looking really at premium clubs. But it's interesting you should bring that up because some clubs have the coach checking people in. And that's been fascinating for me to look at because, of course, it's going to be harder to do these things, but some brands do manage to do it. Some I think get a little bit flustered, it's busy, they might be a little bit stressed, and that's really reflected in the service. Some seem to have more training around this. Maybe they recruit more on the values of people that want to deliver great service from start to finish, and they do get this right, even if it's the same person doing the check-in and actually running the class. So even the lower staff models can still do this, and I think it's important for every business to have this mentality of delivering great hospitality.
Yes. Okay. All right. So now here's the magic question. It's like I'm going to ask you, like, what's the magic recipe for Coca-Cola, that you're not allowed to talk about. But, what are really the key criteria for FitGuide and what that you use to rate these clubs? And then how did you develop those?
Yeah, so we had an important decision to make after the first year. Part of us wanted to almost gatekeep the secret source, as you put it, right? Not want to share it. And we made a decision, which I think was the right one and an important one, and very much in line with our values at the company of really sharing pretty much all of our data. So we put that into the report. We had thousands of people subscribe. We sent them all out through the industry. It was in PDF format, so I'm sure many of those were shared amongst companies and amongst teams. And we really got out pretty much all the interesting data, at least, because we really wanted to start conversations within the fitness industry of how can we get better. And actually, any club could look through that, see the things that other clubs aren't doing or not enough clubs are doing, and just make sure that's part of their process, and they'll already stand out. Going backwards a little bit, when we first started, I have a background in fitness. I run 4 gyms here in Bangkok called Base, as you mentioned. Matt, of course, has a background in hospitality, but it was very important to us that it wasn't just our opinions on what a great fitness experience should be. So we pulled in people from fitness and hospitality. Sean Tam was one of them that we ran the process by. You can look through our website and see some of the other people. Matt used his contacts in hospitality, and we really wanted to make sure that a lot of people in fitness and hospitality thought this was a great system and a great process. I also visited my friends' gyms, went through the whole process anonymously, shared it with them. They gave feedback as well. So that's been very important. And after the first year of evaluations, we took all of the feedback that we had from clubs, questioning the standards, or they weren't sure about something, or they thought the weightings would be a little bit different. And we reviewed the whole process. It was only actually a few little changes that we had to make, which was great. I think that shows that we got it quite right the first time. But again, it's important to us that it always reflects what the fitness industry believes is a fantastic experience. Just breaking down what our evaluation process is, and please do jump in, Liz, if you have any questions. We have 5 categories in total. So reception services, that's basically pre and post class service. Again, it could be with the instructor, often with front desk staff. Then we look at the class experience. Now in boutiques, we see that as the most important part. That makes up 50% of the whole score. So that's the most heavily weighted one. And we actually have a separate award, a separate score for just the class experience. For those clubs that maybe don't have showers, don't have bathrooms, maybe they're not invested so much into the other areas, but the class is absolutely bang on. We do recognize those as well as the whole complete experience. Equipment in studios, that's the cleanliness, the range of equipment. Was it all laid out well? Public areas, so that's anything that any area that we go into. So the front desk area, the showers, of course, toilets if they have any, and then digital and tech. So that's not weighted as much. I think it's 7.5%, but we look at the website, make sure that it works well, functions well. We look at the emails we receive. Do we get notified of the late coming policy? It's just one example of the standards that we have around that. Does the Instagram account fairly reflect the experience? Yeah, we've got around 40 standards around the digital and tech. I'll just give you a few examples, Liz, of some of the standards that we have, just so people know the kind of things that we look out for. So reception services, that's pre and post class. Did the staff personalize the service with the client's name? Again, it should be an easy one because we can cheat by using our booking software. Did they demonstrate anticipatory service? So kind of seeing things that you might need. Maybe your water bottle's empty, or maybe in the class you're sweating and they come and bring a towel. Very few are doing this. This is really what the very best hotels do. The 5-star hotels are always looking to see what might the clients want before they have to ask. If you want to be in the top 1%, hit that one. Did they inquire after the class whether the client enjoyed it? Again, quite a simple one, but how was it, Jack? First time at Solid Core, did you enjoy the session? Great way to start a conversation, great way to connect, great way to get them to continue training. And just a few things we look for in the class. Stations were assigned beforehand. So this is an interesting one. Like Lisa Kika talks a lot. She's been on the show as well, and she was also a speaker at HFA. She talks a lot about when you go, especially for your first time, you should know exactly what's coming up next. Everything should make sense. You should never be lost or wondering what to do or feeling like a bit of an idiot. So it might not feel like something that's hugely important, but stations being assigned beforehand or being told that you can choose whichever station is actually a small part of the journey, but it's quite an important one. It's one of our 250 standards. So if I go to a yoga class and I walk in, I'm like, do I pick any mat? Do I go at the front? Do I go at the back? If I've been told that it's free choice, it just makes me feel a little bit more comfortable when I go in. Does the coach purposefully check if the client has any injuries? And there's a few different ways it can be done. Was clear attention paid to form and technique? So that's just a couple of the things that we look at. And it's interesting, once we send these through to clubs, we try and have a conversation with every single club that we go to. Once clubs, brand owners, and managers, fitness managers look through our process, almost always they're like, this is great. This is legit. You know, I can't really disagree with any of these standards. They're all pretty basic. There's nothing crazy that we look for. Again, it's kind of the fundamentals that if you get right consistently, you're going to have 5-star experiences at your club.
Well, I'll tell you, one experience you just mentioned is something I've never experienced, and that is during a workout, the checking on you with a towel, the checking on your water. That's next level,
Right.
And exactly, I haven't experienced that yet, so that would be phenomenal. So
it's a mindset thing. It's a mindset thing. You can train. You need to get good people who believe in this as well, but it can be trained. It's tough, but it can be done.
I love it. Okay.
You've never had that, Liz, you say?
I haven't. I haven't.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, I know. There we go. Now challenge accepted, right? So let's
Yeah.
Yes.
If Liz is coming to your studio, make sure you anticipate her needs and give her that towel.
Right. I'm going to be sweating a lot and I'm going to be very thirsty and you need to help me with that. Exactly. Okay. So how do you service design and how does service and design and member experience play into the Fit Guide's ratings compared to just equipment and just programming?
I got in the fitness industry 14 years ago and as a personal trainer. And before that, I used to go to the gym. And honestly, I didn't enjoy it that much. It was always a little bit of a chore for me. I used to go on my own, but I started to help my friends train and give them programs. And I thought, you know, I'm passionate about helping people hit their goals. Once I got in the fitness industry, I really loved how it became about meeting people, having a coach that's really enthusiastic, that helps you to hit your goals, basically the whole experience part of the fitness industry. And that was 14 years ago. I've seen in the last 14 years, of course, that's really become a massive part of the fitness industry and certainly what boutiques are about. And I absolutely love that because focusing on the experience, the human connection is helping more people get fitter, stronger, and healthier. And I saw that in the first boutique we opened in Bangkok back in 2013 when we launched the lab there. So we believe that boutiques is more about the human connection. It is more about the experience. And actually, it's a common misconception that hotels, 5-star hotels, it's more because of the pillows or just how great the design is. Actually, if you go to a 5-star hotel as reviewed by Forbes, it's about 75% service standards and the human interaction you have. And then 25% the design, the pillows, the cleanliness and things like that. Our processes is roughly the same. So about 75% of the standards are what the people will deliver. So that's the front desk staff. Of course, it's the coach or the instructor, any other staff that you might bump into. We do have some standards around other staff, such as cleaning staff.
I was just going to ask about cleaning staff. I mean, how does that work? I mean, isn't that often just a contracted service out, or are they in-house employees? How does that work? Cleaning staff.
Yeah, well, if there's no cleaning staff or no other staff, those would just be non-applicable, those standards. But if there is any interaction with anyone else, we do have standards around that. And for me, this is really important because you could have fantastic front desk staff, an incredible instructor, and then a cleaning staff who's grumpy, you know, isn't dressed appropriately. You ask them a question and they give you a very short response or they don't want to know. So I believe that every brand, every studio should get every single member of staff on board. And at Base, our cleaning staff, We make sure we hire people that are sort of naturally quite friendly, and we encourage them to, smile with the clients. Sometimes they'll, on their own accord, they'll bring clients water if they're waiting for their personal training client. We don't even have that as part of our processes, but they'll do it. They get chatting to the clients sometimes. And I think it just generates so much of a better atmosphere. I think actually the experience can be brought down by any poor member of staff. So I feel good that the standards that we have do reflect that as well. So then 25% of the standards are your, tangibles, let's say, the design of the studio, the showers, the bathrooms, the toilets, stuff like that. So, these things are important, but we don't think in the boutique space, at least, as important as the human connection. And what that means is to get 5 stars, that's our highest rating, our highest award, over 90%. You really have to have both, but you definitely have to have, the human interaction, the people that make it incredible. I think, Liz, you tell me, but I think we've all been to gyms that look spectacular, look unbelievable. When the vibe's not there, the experience is not there, you don't really connect with anyone there, or you feel like they don't really want to be there, you don't really want to go back. And then on the flip side, the places that don't look fantastic, they don't look that great, a little bit rough around the edges, maybe even a little bit grubby, but the team there, the staff just make it incredible. And those are the ones that honestly have good businesses, and they're the ones that you kind of want to go back to. And of course, the very best have both.
Yes, I love it. It's brilliant. I'll tell you, if there was somebody that you could replicate, you want my mom on the cleaning staff. She is in the best mood all the time, and she's so happy and she's so welcoming, and she's loves cleaning. So anyway, I'm just I'm making a pitch for
when you find these people, keep them, right? When you find these people that are naturally friendly, they almost just naturally deliver sort of fantastic hospitality. Those are great people. When we find them at base, we really try and keep them for sure.
100%. Okay. So you've seen a lot of high volume of gyms across the globe, and through FitGuide, of course. And talk a little bit about some of the regional differences that stand out for you. Obviously, in Asia, but when it comes to hospitality specifically, are there particular parts of the world that you think are leading the way, that are doing it better, or is it a mixed bag, or are there really regions that you think have nailed it, that are a lot of 5s? Is there any differences or similarities, to talk about throughout the world?
Honestly, no. It's just every single market has been a very mixed bag. And we have seen some trends for sure. Some markets have performed particularly well or not so well in some areas. But every single market is a mixed bag. Every single market has just fantastically delivered experiences, which are going to make you feel great every single time. And I guess a good way to put it is staff that just look like they don't want to be there. It's probably a good way to summarize it. But, the end result is that they're not going to score so many of our standards, and they're not going to be represented well in our system. Honestly, I think overall, the US is the strongest market overall. LA scored very well. New York on the service side was a bit of a mixed bag. So we see fantastic class experiences.
Well, that's on brand. I mean, that's New York, for God's sakes. I'm from New York.
Maybe it's part of it, right? Okay, maybe it's part of the New York experience. And I absolutely love New York. I would love to live there at some point. I love the studios there. But actually, part of the inspiration of the Fit Guide, part of what made up sort of me wanting to do this, was actually going to New York for the first time, visiting a brand and a gym, which I won't name, that I've been wanting to go to for a long time. And the coaches were incredible. It was so good, but the whole experience was massively let down by the front desk staff. There was someone on the front desk just eating sushi, didn't smell particularly good, just sort of asked me to write my name on a piece of paper, didn't even show me around. On the way out, I tried to say hello and they completely ignored me. And it really sort of stuck with me. I mean, as a gym owner at the time, I just found it interesting. I didn't really feel particularly down about it, but it was interesting that first and last impression, the middle was great, but the first and the last bit wasn't so good. And just the negative impact that they had, it sort of made it part of the inspiration really for doing this and trying to start conversations around this. So another interesting part, Liz, is, New York before and after class, maybe not so good, didn't score particularly well. Speaking to owners and managers was interesting, because they would often say, look, you just can't get the staff. They all leave after a few months. But some clubs in New York are doing it. I mean, Orange Theory is a good example. They had fantastic staff, wonderful staff. And my understanding is they're not paying a huge amount more than all the other ones. So I think the lesson there for me is that it can be done. It's hard. I'm not, I don't want to discount that. It's definitely difficult to find good staff and to keep them in some markets. I do get it. But the day you say, look, you can't get the staff and they leave after 3 months anyway, it's kind of the day you're resigning yourself to terrible service, I think. But, I know New York does have unique challenges with pay and things like that. LA scored very well, really across the board. So they managed to do well in both reception services and class experience. And they've been our highest scoring city worldwide. I don't know if it's easier to get good staff in LA than New York. Would you say, Liz? Does that sound about
I
right?
can't say. I think yes. I can't say.
Maybe
I think
maybe people think, yeah, failed actors or something,
right, exactly.
perhaps in LA, and want to deliver the good experience, perhaps. Singapore again did not score well on pre and post class service, but did do very well on class experience. And again, it was a similar story, difficult to get staff, lots of students who apparently don't care about doing a good job by and large, generalizing there. That's just what some of the club owners say, just difficult to get the right people. But again, some clubs still doing it, so it certainly is possible. So look, really every market is a mixed bag, but we have seen a few little trends. Just I guess a few little tips, or a few ways to wrap this up. Looks at brands, I think, more for inspiration than regions. I think regionally it's difficult, but certain brands, such as the ones we've mentioned, really go and visit a few of their clubs and really see what they do. And of course, you don't need to copy exactly what they do, but just take inspiration from how they build the experience. Yeah, I think that's probably the main take home, I think, from this.
Let me ask you about you talk about before and after. Is parking a factor and when people arrive in a club? Because I'll tell you, I live in Washington DC, and so between the options of walking to a gym versus sometimes you've got to go park and you've got to go 5 levels down and you've got to deal with a parking attendant that has nothing to do with the gym, quite frankly. Like, is that a factor? Do you guys weigh that stuff?
That's an interesting one, Liz. It's not one that I thought of as a customer of these clubs. I do think it does make up part of the experience. It's not one that the clubs have mentioned to us. So it's something that we can certainly consider for next year's evaluation. That could be maybe our 251st standard. But we do have a few standards that sort of reminded me of. One is that the club is just easy to find. So you get some that are really difficult. It's not marked on the elevator, whereas other clubs that maybe aren't on the ground floor, they've got J flags or good signage. And the other one is like the sense of arrival. So before you've actually stepped through the door, is there something that really says, this is the brand you're going to, gives you a beginning of the brand experience, let's say, or they just slapped a logo sticker on the door. So whilst it's not the same as the one that you mentioned, it's kind of some of those things that happen as you're making your way there. But that's certainly an important one, Liz, and I think one that we can look at for next year.
Okay, maybe name that standard after me, because it's one that
Sure.
that I value tremendously.
Okay, the
Okay,
251st standard. Yeah, the
that's
Liz
right.
Clark standard. Done.
Yeah. Okay. So listen, in closing here, let's just talk a little bit about what can just an everyday gym operator, whether you're boutique or big box, we've talked a little bit about that you're journeying into measuring that. What can they learn from top performers that you've evaluated around the world?
Yes, if I think about this question, it's not just the data. I mean, that is obviously very powerful, and I think that really helps to hammer some of these points home. These are the things we are doing in the fitness industry. These are the things we aren't doing. But what's been super interesting for me is the extra layer of context of speaking to the people behind the brands. I've already spoken to, about when we spoke to Jennifer and sort of seeing that this thing was no accident. And that's really been the main theme. When a brand isn't doing well, it's almost always no accident. They sort of make excuses. They perhaps haven't got proper operating procedures. A really interesting one has been around sales. So we have about, I think it's 9 or 10 standards around the post-class sales process and the experience that we have. And we don't look for high pressure. We don't look for trying to get us down to the biggest, most expensive package. For example, one of the standards is just being comfortable talking about the options. Another of the standards, and it's a really important one, if there's one take home anyone gets from this, it should be this: ask questions to understand the client's needs. And it could be something as simple as, how often do you want to train per week? Jack, did you enjoy your first Pilates class? Could you see yourself doing this a few times a week? Very simple. Do you live here, Jack, or are you just visiting? Point is trying to sell me a 1-year membership if I'm just there for a weekend. So asking a couple of questions to understand the client's needs. And it's very interesting. We've seen a real correlation between clubs that don't score well in sales and basically making excuses. The most obvious one is, oh, we just don't want to pressure our clients. Comes from a good place. I get it. I've been there. I was like that when I first got in the fitness industry. But we believe strongly that sales and service are one and the same. If I do yoga, I should be doing it more regularly, Liz. I don't do it very often. I find it difficult. I don't find it particularly enjoyable. I need a little bit of help getting across the line. Make me feel good about it. Tell me about my options. Ask me a few questions. Make a strong suggestion. But if you just say, look, I don't want to pressure Jack, I'm just going to let him make his own mind up, I'm probably going to choose not to do it. And if you believe as a yoga studio owner that everyone should be doing yoga, it's fantastic for you, and you believe that you have a great offering and a great studio, you shouldn't want Jack to do one yoga class. You should want him to passionately to do 100 yoga classes, right? And that's what we want to see more of in the industry. So it's interesting to see that kind of correlation between the stories that you tell yourselves and how that manifests in the experience that clients are getting. So look, have a strong sales process, reframe your mindset towards sales will be one of the biggest lessons that we've learned for sure. Have good, solid, standard operating procedures. From speaking to owners, we found that many don't. And again, that's often reflected in the inconsistent experiences that we're seeing at their clubs or even their chains of clubs. Again, Jennifer certainly taught me this, have very strong values, what you believe in. I mean, she's always had hospitality as one of her values. So it's no mistake she scored 5 stars every single time that we visited. And she recruits based on that. She asks questions around, do they have a hospitality focus? Does this excitement? Does it excite them? Sorry. Do they want to deliver a great experience? Have a strong onboarding, regular training for sure. If you invest in your team, retention will improve. And again, through the conversations we've had, we know that's the case. If you say, look, you can't get the staff, they only stay 3 months, they're only going to stay 3 months. If you say, you know what, we're going to invest as much as we can, we're going to build them up, we're going to make them great, they will end up staying a lot longer. Finally, double down on human connection. And I think that's really what the Fit Guide is about and what I think boutique fitness is about. You look at any of the fantastic boutique brands who are doing huge things. If you look at SoulCycle, arguably, kind of the first spectacular, let's say, boutique fitness brand, they doubled down on the experience and the human connection. It wasn't about how many calories you burned. It was about how you felt when you walked through the door. I think all you need when you recruit is people who want to do a good job, who like working with people, and you can train them to be 5-star. That's really all you need. They don't need to have a degree in hospitality or a master's in customer service. They just need to have the right attitude. And if they're taught in the right way, trained in the right way, inspired in the right way, they can deliver consistent 5-star service. And the last thing I'll say is, I think, honestly, if you can do this, you're very protected against AI. AI will not be able to recreate this experience and this human connection and this feeling you get when you walk out the door. Certainly not in the next few decades, I don't think. So if you're worried about AI coming and taking your job, double down on all of this and you'll be okay. If you don't, maybe you will get replaced by AI. And we don't want to see that at the Fit Guide.
Absolutely brilliant. There it was. There was the secrets to success. And so I hope people listen to this. I hope they ingest it. I'm even thinking about, I did a yoga class with my niece a week ago, and all of the experience was great from the arrival, the class, after, but guess what? They haven't tried to sell me on it since. Like, I'm sitting here, I'd go back, but nobody's asking me to. So
there we go. We need a little bit of help, right?
Yeah, I know. So anyway, you've laid out a tremendous plan, and your ratings are fantastic. And we can't thank you enough for joining us today on the podcast. And just, again, all these secrets that you're revealing to everyone. And I hope that folks take this to heart and can really put it in play and in process. So thank you so much, Jack, for being here and for doing what you're doing and elevating everyone's experience.
Thank you, Liz. It's been an absolute pleasure. Look forward to seeing you in March next year.
Yes, sir. I'll be there.
Matrix is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of Shorts with Liz Clark. With over 20 years as a dedicated supporter of the fitness industry, we're thrilled to continue a partnership geared towards success for all those who believe in better.